programs in Norwalk and for all you've done for us. You have really taken this mantle and run with it and made something beautiful. So thank you for that. The Sky Weeks with Us, this collection came out of COVID and the 2 years that followed it, when my husband and I lost around a dozen friends and family members, including my father, and not a single one to COVID. There's the irony. In some ways, during that time, the world tilted for all of us, and it kind of feels like it's never really gone back. Shifts in leadership and technology, political division, all feel like they've undermined the world as it once was. Maybe in some ways that's a good thing, right? But losses are hard to take, and so this collection is an attempt to grieve what was lost and find a way to a new sense of life as it is in this moment. So you can tell me whether I've succeeded at that or not. I'm going to read a few poems from this collection. Most of my presentation will be about that. I thought that I might read a couple from my other books, just so you get a sense of my voice overall. Fog 2. The fog kisses the beach this morning but refuses landfall, referring instead to muffle the water view, the noise of the waves, who just bump the shore gently, like a hip bump, wife to beloved husband of many years, invitation, maybe. Perhaps the fog is lonely, unloved, as it so often is, hovering over its damp soul. I cannot see into its swirling cold heart, nor into my own, which is wounded and floating just out of reach. So, you have to call. Don't clap after everyone. Your hands will get tired. So, the next couple of poems I'm just going to read right in a row. A number of poems in the collection are prose poems, and I was trying to reflect that feeling that we get when we're grieving, where you almost can't breathe, right? Because everything is coming at you too fast. So the first one is called Liz. And that day, when I found out I'd missed the funeral and no one had told me when or where, and I wondered if I hadn't been a good enough friend to be invited, as if it were a party or a contest, and of course ascribed it to grief or oversight or the loss of a phone number, even though her husband had called to let me know she was dying. And there I was in a hotel in New York after my husband's bladder cancer surgery, and we were headed to Soleil Poivre, and I texted her a picture of the cavern of the street and said, I miss you. And, do you think Cuomo's really in the shit now? And then she was gone. Morgan, and you, walking the mall, racing me and telling me to slow down when it was you who was pushing yourself, trying to keep ahead of the cancer, walking yourself free, and on the way, telling me the story of your caregiver with the head twitched by spirits. Spirits? You said, who's to know? You, who in the last weeks of your life turned to the Unitarian Church and told me how angry you were. Why me? No, really, why me? How could I tell you it's all of us, and none of it's fair, when you, at 46, your beautiful self erased to but a twig, had 6 weeks left, and then none. Then came COVID, and we all scurried to our corners, huddling over the blue light of our screens, shivering, trying to breathe less in public places, buying food at 6 a.m., and old mothers complained of loneliness, and young mothers of total exhaustion. And the Thai restaurant started delivering, but the Venezuelan coffee place disappeared, and we, with no children and remote jobs, drank cocktails outside in 30-degree weather in our parkas and boots overlooking the water, while librarians wiped down books, and one friend, disinfected, delivered groceries, and another one of thousands in nursing homes or hospitals or driving UPS trucks died. Dad. And there you were in your recliner, the dinner tray served while we packed to leave, Mom for the night and us to return to Connecticut. And you bit into your grilled cheese, a long string of it looping between your lips and the sandwich, and your blank, puzzled look at my "oh, Dad," as if you could comprehend neither the problem nor the solution. You, who had lifted a jet off a carrier over the Mediterranean, who had built the table on which I write this, searching out antique boards with just the right amount of knot, whose hands I still see running carefully over marble sculpture or Persian rugs, teaching me to touch. And then, a week later, you were gone. It was a pretty rough couple of years. So it wasn't just people that we lost, it was stuff too, right? So this is called filling the bird bath. A hunk of concrete dropped off the bird bath yesterday when I readjusted the bowl again. I think the deer come to drink at dusk, their supple tongues nudging the flat to an angle. And now I'm unsure if it's steady enough to last. Another winter may crumble it, and a new one won't be this pocked hand-me-down, ivy climbing its base, 30 years of soft feathers fluttering in its mouth at twilight. Macy. You think it's gonna get better, and then suddenly there's a twist. Macy, then last night, a newish friendship. Or a friendship renewed after a COVID hiatus. Or a friendship that never got started because of COVID, that we're now feeling our way toward. And we're drinking wine in a Ridgefield bar with all the doors open on a September afternoon, light like slowly snowing gold flakes floating down onto untrimmed grass, macadam, and boxwood. And she tells me she's recently undergone a complete hysterectomy at 45. Her blonde and slender self, long fingers reaching for the stem of the wine glass as she states she's fine, and she wishes people would stop asking with that overly caring tone of voice as if she was going to drop dead tomorrow. And sure, the doctors recommended taking both breasts as well, but then she went to MSK and they said they'd watch it closely, every 4 months into the city for tests, but that's better, right? And the light sifts in, and I wonder as I resist reaching to hug her, too soon, too intimate, if some unconscious part of me secretly seeks out the dying. It really felt like that after a while. Jeez. Okay. So as I said, it's not just the human world, but the natural world that has suffered over the last few years. Drought. And I apologize for my Spanish. I took French in high school, so I'm gonna screw it up. I apologize in advance. Drought. You guys can correct me later. Then came the summer without water, and Lake Mead dropped so low the skeletons of old mafia hits emerged. And Spanish Stonehenge rose from the Peraleda de la Mata as the Valdecañas Reservoir shrank and the garden soil grew cracked. And we worried about hunger because, well, Ukraine. And we worried about heating oil because, well, Russia. And gas prices rose above $5 a gallon, and people had to choose among chicken, antibiotics, rent, and air conditioning in 100-degree heat. And rain threatened and passed over even as we knelt on the parched ground, surrounded by an acre of only crabgrass and dirt now, under the empty sky with our drums and prayers pleading. You know what's really sad is that's still all true. only I need to substitute this straight up Hormuz.
Right.
Oh, God. Okay. So what do you do with all the grief? You need places to feel, right? The grocery store if you go alone. Reach deep for frozen Brussels sprouts or peas. Close slowly the frosted glass door. Your tears will stiffen on your skin, easy to flick off before other shoppers notice. Or your womb-like car when the kids stay home, surrounded by the music they mock, but which reaches some part of you mostly unreachable. Not in the park. Too many other mothers or fathers who crowd the jungle gyms, yelling directions to their aspiring Olympic offspring to hide their own loneliness. The safest place is the shower. You can lock the door with enough time so no other's needs interrupt, and the water can stream across your skin like kindness. If not, someday your body will lock up, shoulders and back in catatonic rigidity, hives blossoming wetly beneath stressed skin, old injuries protesting like tired children moaning in the late afternoon. Your best bet is to weep silently, letting it leach from your bones through muscle, down the nerve pathways, and out through that carapace you've built into the light and electric air. All right, so, you know, you can't end on misery, right? Nobody will buy your book. And we don't stay there, finally. We can't stay there as humans. We have to move through and find a way to live again, right? To embrace what the world offers. And for me, that came through the idea of gratitude. This morning on my walk, I saw a branch reaching into the road, its leaves pockmarked and shredded by traffic bustling by, and I felt the need to touch it, as if to say, someone sees your pain, and someone knows you were here, trying to survive the drought, trying to clean the air, still trying to give us what we need even as we abuse you. And once I see that gift, I see it everywhere. Crabgrass lush on dry ground, the dandelion's sunny yellow smile, dogwoods struggling against wilt, cloud curled around a pop of blue sky. Who am I amidst this bounty but a thief, a pinprick in this wide, wide universe? So, enough darkness. I thought I would read just a couple things from my other poems, from my other books, I'm sorry. And then maybe end with a couple that are brand new. So this collection is called Do You Expect Your Art to Answer? And it is a collection of ekphrastic poems for those of you that don't know what those are. It is poetry written in response to an artwork in general. Right, but we like as poets to interpret things the way we want to. So this is written in response to a Billy Collins comment. Van and I saw him read at Manhattanville years and years ago, and he said in that reading that we could never be too grateful that inanimate things remained inanimate. I love that. He's a funny man. Spirits of the house. The television is, of course, female. What else could hold a man entranced for hours? The bookshelves are male, ponderous, heavy with abstraction, linear, there are blocky lines crosswording the wall. The laptop wears a long, flowing pink dress, has red hair. She is the daughter of Aphrodite and Thor. Mother goddess nestles in the couch. Fertility of snack crumbs, small beads, and loose change. plump, embracing arms welcome you to sleep. The mobile above the baby's bed holds the spirit of the air, a slow motion tease. And Maggie the cat, little dark soul who keeps the rest in line, patrols, egregiously matted and unsteady. Her once beautiful tortoiseshell fur, now a used car lot of dried food and feces. She alone stands between us and the poltergeist, winging disorder through the house. They who would rearrange the books, sneak silverware into the underwear drawer, move themselves, couch, television, bookshelf, to the other side of the room at midnight to wound an unwary householder, make phone calls to an old lover, hypnotize a man so he forgets his life. And then we had this really cool thing happen this week, right? We went to the moon. How amazing is that?
Yeah, definitely.
So I wrote this book called Daughter of Sky. My father was a pilot, and I fell in love with all things flying, including astronomy, which I don't understand, not even a little bit. I try to read about it, and then, in the book, there's this formula that's like 3 pages long. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. So I thought I'd just read a couple from here. Let's see. The light dark matter experiment. So there's an epigraph. Epigraph is just like a little quote or bit of information that the writer gives to the reader at the beginning of the poem. And this is from an article from Symmetry magazine written by Lori Ann White, expanding the search for dark matter. And she wrote, researchers think dark matter makes up approximately 26.8% of all the matter and energy in the universe. That's a lot, right? Yeah. Shaping the structure of our universe while remaining unseen. It's the velvet emptiness behind us all, the blank black space we can't see. Looking straight at it, it's invisible. The sun in eclipse, energy in shade. A shade some name God, or collective unconscious, or low-mass dark matter. Spirit that moves us beyond our comprehension. The gravitational force that pulls us into shape. That woman walking down the street, her left shoulder higher than her right. Or the man who limps, or the boy child who hides. What dark matter froze my grandmother's limbs, seized my grandfather's heart? What dark matter makes my father shout, Jehovah is the only God, lures boys to pick up guns to shoot their friends? Sorry, darkness isn't over. Voyager's gold record, you know about Voyager, right? It's out there in the universe, sailing around, and we're hoping that maybe someday somebody will find it, and we'll be able to, there's all sorts of stuff on there about us. Hopefully they like us. Voyager's golden record. Just imagine, it pulls up to another planet with human life, people like us. No extra eyes or toes or tentacles. They have a language, a Christ, Jinn. How lonely to discover kin across the galaxy 1 billion years away near the center of the universe while you inhabit the edge, or is it the reverse? We're here, but how to find us in the incredible expanse of space? Little Voyager, a pilgrim between worlds, one-way communication, carries a record of music, photographs, sounds of Earth. A home that's lost to them. Or are we the lost ones? Siblings separated by the Big Bang, each revolving around our separate, lonely star. Okay, so I'm gonna end. You're almost done with me. I have two new poems I thought I would try out on you. The first one is titled Afternoon Tea, and of this, one of the guys in my writings group said, "You're getting weird."
Yes!
Weird is good. Do more. So we'll see if you feel the same way. Afternoon tea. That afternoon, the wolf arrived in the living room and requested tea, baring his fangs at our dog and shedding his fur like a coat across the back of the chair. I asked, "What do you want?" But Earl Grey was his only answer, and I wasn't sure if he really meant tea or if a guy out there named Earl Grey should be on the lookout. When I brought the tea tray and some dog treats to dip, he held the cup and saucer daintily between his paws, curled his tail around his legs, lapped it up. "No biscuits for me," he said. "I'm saving myself for dinner." I have a persona named Charlene. Charlene says everything that I can't say. So she's, yeah, that's all you need to know. This is in her voice, and it's titled Ruination and Glory Alike. Charlene felt herself tip over from middle to late age, like water flowing from a pitcher into a tiny cup. Somewhere in there floated all her molecules, her blood and thoughts, and prickly electric pains. But none of it mattered much anymore beyond the thrush song at 5 a.m. and the taste of peppery arugula from her garden. The world continued day by day, the sun rising on ruination and glory alike, the taste of coffee still bitter, the air moist or crisp. Diligently, she recycled and composted, weeded, put out birdseed, swept the deck. Maybe it didn't matter, but the moments were like drops of water in which one could see the whole world reflected, and she wanted to swallow every one. Thank you.